Welcome to number 50 Chestnut Chat. Thank you guys for joining us. I am joined by some special guests today that I'll get into to celebrate both Chestnut Chat, and then also we're going to be talking about education and inspiring the next generation of conservationists today. So I'm Sarah Fitzsimmons. I'm the Chief Conservation Officer for the American Chestnut Foundation, and I work out of our Penn State Partnership Office in Central Pennsylvania. So John mentioned that he can't share his camera, so that's how this webinar format works. The only people who can share their screen or their microphone are the folks that you see here on the panelist screen. I call it the Brady Bunch screen. So today that's Kelly and Russell, who are joining us from Eastern PA. Russell has joined us for, I think, every Chestnut Chat since we started back in 2020. So he is our perfect attendee. Carl Meixel is also on here. He's another perfect attendee, but he wants to choose to stay an attendee, but I do want to give him a shout out. Let everybody know that he's here today as well. So Alice is joining us from WVU, and then let's see, Lisa is joining us from Asheville, North Carolina. She is a retired CEO of the American Chestnut Foundation, and so we're happy to welcome her back. This was her brainchild back in the day after the days of COVID, so we'll join her in retirement and see how things are going. Catherine's joining us from Albany, New York. Eva's joining us from somewhere in Maine. Where are you, Eva?
Midcoast, Maine, St. George near Rockland.
Okay. Oh, nice. Kendra's in Burlington, though her screen's off. Hal is in Asheville, who begrudgingly is staying a panelist. But I wanna give a shout out to Hal. He's been doing a lot of the video editing for Chestnut Chat. He's our web designer, so a lot of the gorgeous designs that you see on our website these days is because of Hal and his excellent work. So thank you for letting me keep you up. Yes, you may absolutely take a bow for that. So anyway, the only people who can share their screen and their webcam, their microphone are the 8 of us. So if you need to answer the phone, if you want to keep watching TV, have NPR in the background, Amazon comes to the door, your dog is barking, let it go because we can't hear you. You're not going to interrupt us. If you want to do a chat, throw that in the chat. If you want to ask a question, throw that in the Q&A. We've got Kendra and a few other folks who are monitoring the Q&A. I'll keep monitor of that. So if you do have a question, please feel free to throw that in the Q&A. If you put the question in the chat, it'll be difficult for us to pull that out. So do put questions in the Q&A. So today's format, I'm going to run through a couple of statistics about Chestnut Chat. We've been doing this since April of 2020. So I want to just give a few tidbits of information about the chat itself. Then I'm going to turn it over to Lisa. She'll talk a little bit about the Chestnut Chat and her experience there, and then what she's been doing for the past year. You've been retired for almost a whole year now. And then I'm going to turn it over to Kelly and Russell. We'll talk to them a little bit about what they're doing these days, and also I really want to know what your all's favorite episodes of Chestnut Chat is. So for the audience, if you guys do have a favorite Chestnut Chat, why don't you throw that in the chat while we're talking here. So let me go ahead and get started and share my screen. Before I give you any stats, I do want to, let's see. I want to promote the American Chestnut Symposium. So this is what we've previously called the annual meeting of the American Chestnut Foundation. This year we're going to be in Cromwell, Connecticut. I'm going to go to the map real quick. Where is Cromwell, Connecticut? It's about 15 minutes south of Hartford, depending on traffic. It's about 30 miles north of New Haven. And the reason we're in Cromwell, Connecticut is because of the Connecticut Ag Experiment Station down here. Our plan is on Friday evening, we'll kick things off with a happy hour, cocktail hour kind of thing. We will meet and have a dinner presentation from Peter Crane of the Oak Spring Foundation. And then all day Saturday, we will have talks and also run 2 sets of tours down at the Connecticut Ag Experiment Station. And then wrap up on Saturday evening with another dinner and another great speaker from Yale. So there's where our meeting is. We are October 24 to 26th in Cromwell, Connecticut. Here are our speakers who we're going to have. So Peter Crane from the Oak Spring Garden Foundation, and then Mark Ashton. They're bookending our talks on Friday evening and Saturday evening, mainly because they're both going to be talking about the evolution of American chestnut as it fits within evolutionary history from way back. And that's really what Peter's going to talk about. And then Mark's going to talk more about the place of American chestnut and Phagales as an order, and where it looks like in evolution moving forward. So that's why we kind of want to have those two folks opening and ending our session. Susanna Cario works with the Connecticut Ag Experiment Station, continuing the good work of Sandy Anastakis, who was there for almost 50 years. Tracy Zarillo is an entomologist also with the Connecticut Ag Experiment Station. She'll be giving us some updates on the chestnut bee and various other entomological connections with American chestnut. Nicole Brown is an eco-poet, and this will be a new one for us. We've had a lot of cultural connections. We've had music, we've had some speakers give some really moving talks about their connections and cultural connections with chestnut, but we've never had poetry. So I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a bit of a workshop format as well. So hear some poetry and also learn how to do poetry. And then Stephen Tolowicki, he's with SUNY Geneseo, and he's been doing a lot of habitat modeling for American chestnut as well. So he'll be talking about the work he's been doing modeling American chestnut habitat, and then how that's going to help us figure out where the best places to restore the tree now and into the future are going to be. So it's a really exciting program. I hope you guys will mark your calendars. Again, Hal has amazing designs up. So if you Google Chestnut Symposium or go to the TACF website, you'll see all this information. Registration will officially open next Thursday. So July 25th, registration opens up. And I hope to see most, if not all of you there. And I think with that, I will turn. Oh, so I think Kendra has put a link into the American Chestnut Symposium. So if you guys want to check that out and see, get a little bit more about that session coming up. And I see Leslie put in that her favorite chestnut chat so far is Mineland Chestnut Plantings. That was a good one. That was last November. Thanks for sharing that, Leslie. So if anyone else wants to put in their favorite chestnut chat in the chat, that'd be great. Lisa, how's it going?
Going good, Sarah.
Yeah.
It's
How's
great to be
retirement?
back.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
are you doing in your retirement?
Well, I'm still a little involved with TACF as just institutional knowledge and relationship management help. We have a new development director, John Chastain, so I've been working closely with him on some things, and got to go to Georgia and do a Clear Day Thunder kind of screening at the beautiful theater in Rome, Georgia, where Kathy Patrick and Marty Cipollini are really involved in. So I've been kind of putting my toe back in the water every now and then, because once you're a chestnutter, you're always a chestnutter, right, for life. So it's really, and I love all of you. I miss you, and it's really great to stay in touch. So, but I've been swimming, I've been hiking. It's been very different. I've been on a pretty hard treadmill for a long time, so slowing down has been a little challenging for me. So if you guys have any idea for hobbies, Sarah tried to get me into this proper mountain women thing, and I miserably failed that. So I'm trying just to figure out how to slow down and smell the roses. Spending a lot of time with my husband of 43 years. I was gone a lot and traveling for Chestnut, so it's been nice to be together and do things together, and a little bit of travel. Went to Maine. Eva, I wasn't too near you, so don't get mad at me for not stopping in. So otherwise, we're just enjoying life.
That's great. And so you mentioned Clear Day Thunder, the movie. So I for those of you who don't know, we released that. It's now free to view. I don't know, Catherine or Kendra, if you get, or maybe Hal, you guys have access to that link right away where you can throw that in the chat, so folks are able to see that. We've got some luminaries. Dolly Parton's in there, E.O. Wilson, and Lisa, had a huge part in making that happen. My kids are in there. They were 4 years younger, so they're extremely cute. But I might be a little biased on that one.
They are very cute. And you're in there, Sarah.
I am in there. They're a
Yes,
lot
you
younger
are.
than I am, but um,
And it's
the
won a
film
couple awards, right? It's won some awards.
it's won
Lookout
several
Mountain
awards.
Film Festival, and I didn't keep track of all of it, but yeah, it's something we're really proud of.
I wish I knew how may know. He just put a link there in the chat. How may know all of the awards that
There you
it's
go.
won, but several film festivals have recognized its importance and good filmmaking.
Yes,
Um,
been fun.
yeah. So what? How did you think about Chestnut Chat? Where did that come from? Do you remember?
Well, you and I were returning from our Florida gig at the Garden Club, Jupiter Island, mid-March 2020. And the pandemic was hitting in a big way. And Sarah and I were trying to figure out how to get home and figure out what to do next. And we shut everything down like the whole world did. It was a very strange time. It's kind of like, where were you in March 2020? And, I was pretty worried about the organization because I didn't know how, how we would survive, if we would survive, because we're so collegial and we do things together so much. So, and kudos to the executive committee. They met with us every week. We figured out how to get a payroll protection loan. We really did a good job, all while we were hiring a new accountant. So during the operations, it was very challenging, but we also wanted to figure out how we could keep our very tight, very tight-knit community together. And my favorite one is our first one, Sarah, because we didn't know what we were doing, but we just kind of launched it, and it was you, me, and Jared, right?
Yes.
And it really wasn't a brainchild of mine, even though Sarah's being very generous, but it was more like, let's do a town hall. Let's do a town hall and just talk and get people on Zoom, and Zoom was becoming part of everybody's lives. And so we just talked about how we all got involved in Chestnut. And Sarah, you talked about your papa, and Jared talked about, hiking the Appalachian Trail. And I talked about being a nature kid from way back. And so we just sort of winged it. And then Sarah really took it from there. We started getting some really nice and incredibly credentialed guests on the Chestnut Chat, as like she mentioned, Stacy Clark. I think the second one was Chuck Lavelle from the Rolling Stones and Allman Brothers. He's also in the film, and he was willing to do that out of Savannah. And so we just started. It's kept going, and I don't know I don't know if it was you or me that coined Chestnut Chat, but we just loved seeing everyone while we were all in lockdown, and it just got a life of its own. So that's kind of what I remember. How about you, Sarah?
I think yeah, that's how it happened. And yeah, trying to get out of Orlando on March like 15th of 2020
You cut
was
it close.
we
It was
cut
the
it we
day
cut it real
before
close.
Disney closed, right?
It was the day Disney closed. It was the day Disney closed that we went.
Mm.
And I remember like there were a bunch of people. Yeah, that was a crazy time, as I'm
It
sure
was a
everybody remembers.
crazy time. In fact, I remember we had a meeting with the full staff about how we're going to do operations. And we are lucky we are a research-based organization, not a performance-based organization like, the performing arts and museums, and they really suffered. So we did better than a lot of nonprofits. But I remember Kendra saying, "Boy, Lisa, I've never seen you look so serious on a Zoom call." But everybody was really generous in 2020 and kept us going. So we're very lucky.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Lisa, and it's
Sure.
great to have you back on Chestnut Chat. You were Russell's been on more than you or I, which is really
Mhm.
incredible, and I want to thank him for doing that. But any final words before I turn it over to him?
No, just keep up the great work, you all. As I said, I'm a chestnutter for life. I hiked yesterday on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and I saw a little stump sprout, pretty good size. And I would have walked right by that 10 years ago. I wouldn't have noticed, but I'm constantly on the lookout for chestnuts and trees in general. So, I mean, this opportunity to help lead this organization has been an honor of a lifetime. And I hope to see all of you again soon.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, Russell and Kelly. Who wants to go first and tell us a little about who you are and what you like about chestnuts and what you like about not chestnuts?
I think I will, because I can say how he got into it and then he can go.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Um, he's always been like an outside kid, but during lockdown, he pretty much lived outside from morning till night. And then he would hike in the woods. My parents have quite a bit of property, and Dad would tell him stories about when he was a kid and the stories that he heard about the chestnuts and everything. And then he found out that his great grandmother had tried to, she worked for the forester, I guess, back in the 50s, I think. And I guess they were trying to graft and doing all sorts of things back then. And then that kind of took off. And I found the Chestnut Foundation and, you know, got him a part of it. And then he was on the Chestnut Chats. And I remember saying to him, don't ask any questions. You know, these are adults here. Just listen to what they're saying. And after, I think it was the second Chestnut Chat, he said, Mom, I asked questions. I'm like, oh no. So then I emailed you and I sort of apologized because I had no idea what questions he asked, or, you know, and then you were so nice enough to, you know, answer him. And then we did that little Zoom meeting where he asked questions and everything. And, you know, then it went from there. But yeah, we're very grateful that you took him in and, you know, have done everything you've done with him. He appreciates it and he loves it. And I know when we went out to Penn State, and that was like one of the best days of his life when he saw all those chestnuts. Oh my gosh, he was so excited. He was talking for weeks, and he will tell everyone. We have a business, but he will talk to anyone and everyone about the Chestnut Foundation. I hope he got some more people to donate, but we try. He tries really hard. So, but yeah, we're super proud of him because, I mean, it's amazing. He's, you know, he was 8 years old when he started, and he'll never see a full grown American chestnut, even, you know, and he still wants to do this. It's amazing.
Well, we really appreciate your support and Russell, your interest in this work. So your advocacy, absolutely. I'm sure it has turned into a lot of people becoming involved. So yeah, what is it about the chestnut that, I mean, at 8 that kind of drew you into it? Do you remember?
I think it was just like stories of what, like, because Poppy would say when he was a kid, because the big stumps were left and they were hollow, and his mom would put him in when she would go out and cut wood, and he'd be stuck in the stump. And then now the birches are have the roots growing out where the stumps were, and that's really neat.
Yeah, definitely. So you must have hiked around and found some chestnuts in the wild. Do you have a favorite story about a hike or a tree that you found?
I don't think so, but one time I was hiking and I found the leaf, but I'm not sure if it was American or Chinese. But we do have the Chinese on the property because my great grandmother used to graft them, and she just planted those.
Yeah. Now you love plants in general though, right? So what do you have a favorite plant besides? Now we know that your favorite, I'm going to pretend that your favorite is the American chestnut. Do you have a favorite besides the American? What other plants do you really like to work with?
I work with everything because I grow a garden. I have the house plants. I have the greenhouse in my house with the cats, and we live in the woods. So if I find like a seedling growing somewhere, I'll plant it in a pot and I'll plant it out. Or
Do
like,
you have a garden that you're growing like vegetables and fruits and stuff, or?
yeah, I have about 260 tomato plants.
Wow.
He's not exaggerating. We do.
What are you gonna do with all those tomatoes?
Give them away.
Kendra, I remember when she was telling me about zucchini season up in Vermont. That's when that's the only time of year that you have to lock your car, is because everybody will like go around with their zucchinis, open the car door, throw a whole bunch in, and they're not going to steal your car. But it sounds like that might be a tomato issue for you guys.
Yeah, because I got a zucchini. It's about this big, and it weighs like 2 point something pounds.
Dang, nice.
And then I got those patty pan squash. It's this big.
Those are good. I like those. Do you eat chestnuts in the fall?
Yeah, I get some of the Chinese chestnuts, and then we'll break them open. We'll eat them.
Nice. Do you cook them? Do you eat them raw? Do you roast them? Do you make them in recipes?
We usually eat them raw, but I have a way of like roasting them in the microwave. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. So you cut an X in them, or do you like to watch them explode? I mean, some people just like that.
I think we cut them open, and then cut them in quarters, and then we'll put them in a bowl, and then put like salt or put olive oil to cover them, and then we'll put them in for maybe, I don't know, a minute, 30 seconds, and I'll take them out, pat them a little, and then put some salt and pepper, or just salt or something like that, and then eat them like that.
Yeah, excellent. Very good protocol there. Well, so what's your favorite episode of Chestnut Chat? That one?
I really like the how to grow chestnuts. It was episode 48.
Oh, yes, or the recent one that we did with a lot of videos. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, that one's one of my favorites too. We tried a little something different with our staff recording their sessions and to kind of show how to do that. Yeah, I expect that to be a popular one over time. Well, excellent. All right, Hal says that he liked that one too. Well, great. Well, Russell, thank you so much for your ongoing support of the work and really being an excellent advocate there. Keep telling everybody about the work and get more folks excited. Anything else you want to let people know about who you are or your love of chestnut? Or I know you love rocks, and I know you're still on the lookout for a chestnut fossil. So if you want to throw anything else out like that, you can have a final word here.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, I will see. I'll ask again if the audience, if you guys do find a chestnut leaf fossil or any part of a fossilized chestnut. I know Russell would definitely enjoy it. So thank you guys. Lisa, thank you for joining us again and for really conceiving of this series. It's been really fun to run. Russell, Kelly, thank you guys for supporting it and coming every week or every week, geez, every month. I'll look forward to seeing you guys on future ones. While I have the floor, I will plug next month's Chestnut Chat. We're going to invite some folks from the University of Vermont, Tony D'Amato and Tim Stout. I want to thank Kendra for getting this one together. They are going to be talking about some silvicultural considerations regarding climate change and how American chestnut fits into that. So that should be a really interesting session. I don't know, Kendra, I didn't necessarily say that I was going to turn it over to you, but do you have anything else to say about that session that's coming up next month in August?
No. I think Pete Clark might also be joining us.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it should be fun. I think they've been doing some really interesting work with adaptive silviculture, looking at a lot of different species that are suited for changing climates, and they were able to partner with us to include chestnut as one of the species that they're investigating, which is pretty cool. And so yeah, I think it's going to be kind of like high level from Tony. I'm hoping Pete will be able to talk about some of his PhD work, and then Tim's actually been implementing that on some of his property on a farm in southern Vermont. So should be fun.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Kendra. And then in September, I want to try and get a big conversation together about the history of hybridization of chestnut in the U.S., and that'll lead up to the tours we'll be doing at the Connecticut Ag Experiment Station. October, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but my initial topic is for spooky stories about American chestnut. So if you aren't familiar, the large remaining dead trees of American chestnut, they're referred to as chestnut ghosts. So we'll definitely talk about the ghosts of American chestnut that are still out there. There are still some that can be found that are big, 4 foot in diameter remnant trees that you can find out there. But if you guys have any other scary chestnut stories, for example, one day when I first started working back in April of 2004, 2005, I planted 1,000 chestnuts in the Arboretum at Penn State. And the next day I came out and raccoons had eaten them all. So that's a very scary story of raccoons eating all of your hard work. So if you have a story like that or something familiar, feel free to hit me up so we can maybe include that in our October session, which will be before our symposium in Connecticut. All right. Well, thanks again, Kelly, Russell, Lisa. Really appreciate you guys helping us out with the session. And we're going to pivot here to Catherine and Eva and Alice. So for our symposium in Connecticut, Catherine's going to run an educational roundtable. So I hope that she'll give us a little taste and a little sense of what that's going to be. And then Alice and Eva will talk about some of the work that they're doing in terms of encouraging education and using American Chestnut as a template for talking about a lot of other topics that you can use in education. So Catherine, I'm going to turn the program over to you.
Thanks, Sarah. Before Russell leaves, I want to know, just to kind of switch, we were talking about past Chestnut Chats, and now we're going to be talking about the future. Is there any topic that you'd really like us to cover? What are you really curious and want to learn about chestnuts? Might be a tough question. If you need time to think, we can come back to you.
Yeah, I think I might need time to think.
All right. So my name is Catherine Martini. I'm the Northern Regional Outreach Coordinator, and I've been with the American Chestnut Foundation for just over a year. And when I started, one of the first questions that I got the very first week I was here was from a teacher about wanting to use American chestnuts in her classroom. She had a 5th and 6th grade classroom. And so that has been one of my priorities since I've started. And we are so lucky in this community to have such great teachers who want to share the story of American chestnuts, but who also know that it is a valuable story to teach other learning concepts, everything from math to art, social studies, everything in between. It's really, chestnuts really cover the whole thing, and in traditional classrooms, non-traditional classrooms. So I have a little PowerPoint here I put together, and I will just share my screen so we can all check that out. So as we heard earlier, we're going to be hearing from Alice Morgan and Eva Butler, both really amazing educators. I've had the pleasure to meet you both and spend lots of time talking with you about your education goals. So we'll be hearing from Alice and Eva in a moment, but but first I wanted to share with you this quote from Splash. When I was looking up Eva's biography for this, she founded Splash Water and Wildlife Education in California, and I was reading their about page, and I thought this summed up why we really need to teach the next generation about chestnuts. The future health of our environment demands that we raise a generation of children who are willing and able to protect it. At Splash and at the American Chestnut Foundation, I'll add in, we believe that people who will value what they understand and they will protect what they value. So I just, I couldn't have said it better than that. It's really, in order for this chestnut restoration work to succeed, we know we're working on tree time, right? We just heard from Russell and Kelly that, even Russell may not see a full-grown American chestnut back in the forest, but we have to keep passing this on. If we really value these trees, we have to keep passing it on. And we have to, before the next generation can be passionate about it and do something about it, they have to learn about it. So it's a very simple concept there. I chose this is the Splash logo and 2 pictures of tree frogs. So this is a tree frog in a blight canker and making a home there, and here's a tree frog on a leaf. But I just loved the symmetry of the frogs there. So what are some things, who are some teachers and programs that have been working with American chestnut in their classroom? The Tantasqua Chestnut Tree Project is located in Fiskdale, Massachusetts. This is the oldest project that I know about. They've been running their club and using the chestnut in their middle school classrooms since 2016. So they have some trees that are getting mature there as well. There are 3 science teachers that all teach 7th grade science at this school. They started a club. They have an orchard. This club and the education there got off the ground because there was a tornado that came through their area and destroyed a whole swath of trees on a bank. And what popped up was American chestnuts. After that, we know that chestnuts really like these cleared, disturbed areas. And so it got the teachers and students there wondering about what they could do to help bring this back. So not only are the students here learning about it, but they're also contributing to the research effort that we're doing at the American Chestnut Foundation. They also do education themselves. They go out, they give talks. So there's also public speaking, they're spreading the word. And one of my favorite little stories Jessie Green, one of the teachers there, told me is that they have students that have now gone to college, since this has been such a long project, but that come back to check on their trees. So it really has made a lasting impression for them. If you want to learn more about what they're doing, they have a really great website. I put the link up here. And Tantasqua, I know is going to be hard to spell, but Tantasqua Chestnut at weebly.com if you want to learn more about what they're working on. And we're also hoping to have some of these educators at the roundtable at our fall symposium in Connecticut. Next is the Birch's School Chestnut Project. The Birch's School in Lincoln, Massachusetts is an alternative school. So a lot of the kids there get indoor education, outdoor education, lots of kinds of different things. Ken couldn't be with us today, but he's going to be at the fall symposium. So if you want to learn more about what he's doing, these are elementary to middle school age students. And this image here, if you can see it, if there's no gray box in the way, is from a video that the students produced and put together. Ken Clarkson, he's the teacher that's working with them on this here. They've learned about the American chestnut, its history, and are also planting trees in an orchard to help bring it back. And one of our volunteers, who I think is on right now, Mark Meal, has helped a lot with this project as well, brought them trees and helped them plant. So this highlights, I think, what a really another great aspect of what chestnut education in schools does is it connects them to the broader community. So, and it connects them to our volunteers who have all this knowledge. So it makes a really great vehicle for sharing. And the last one is the newest one that I'll talk about. This is Adam McElwain in the Medina City School District. That's in Ohio. Just this year, he started a Chestnut Club and his first year of working with Chestnut curriculum. He has a team there that has helped build this curriculum. And what I really like about his program is that Adam, pictured here, is a social studies teacher. He's not a life sciences or biology teacher, but he got into this from the people aspect of it. How did losing the chestnut affect people? And so they have an interdisciplinary curriculum going on where social studies teachers are working with science teachers, are working with English teachers to teach holistically about the American chestnut. Then next, I'll ask Alice to introduce herself and we can talk about her project. So Alice, if you want to take it away, yeah, take it away.
Sounds good. Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great. Well, I am Alice Morgan. I am one of the associate directors for Science Adventure School. We're a fairly new organization, very excited to be here. So I put together a kind of quick presentation on who we are and what we've been doing with American chestnut education. Okay, so what is Science Adventure School? We are an outdoor school for sixth graders in West Virginia. We focus on STEM education. We have students who come with as many of their classmates as we can get to come. They come with their teachers. They spend the entire experience immersed in nature with limited technology. We work at multiple sites throughout West Virginia, and our curriculum has 3 components. So we do one called Science Behind the Sport, and this links physical science concepts with doing outdoor recreational activities. We have our environmental education curriculum, which is very focused on inquiry and inquiry and getting your hands dirty and asking questions. And then we have positive youth development curriculum, which is very much just learning and growing as a person in your community. Okay, next slide. So a day in the life of Science Adventure School is pretty much entirely outdoors. Students come and they sleep in those tents like you see in that bottom corner there. There's a photo of students who are learning about the science behind drawing a bow back. They're investigating a wetlands. They're going on a zip line, essentially out and about in nature the entire time. Next slide. Okay, so then the exciting part. We knew that we wanted to incorporate American chestnuts into our environmental education curriculum as one of our newest units. And what we really wanted to do was tie the story of Appalachia into that curriculum. We really try and have our curriculums overlap a little bit if they can. So we have as an example, we have a science behind BMX biking that's tied to our soil science concept. But we really didn't have anything that was tying our positive youth development curriculum anywhere. So we were really excited that the American Chestnuts could fulfill that for us. We wanted a curriculum that could be place-based because since we work in very different ecosystems across the state, we wanted students to be able to, engage with the forest and the trees and the ecosystems they were seeing outside of their houses. And then, of course, we wanted it to be very big on curiosity, exploring, and encourage investigation. So with all that in mind, we submitted a grant to the West Virginia chapter of the foundation for funding to develop that curriculum. And we were very excited they wanted to support us. So we got that grant, and then we moved into developing that curriculum. So next slide. So our focus is to be place-based. What we did is that we housed our American Chestnut curriculum in a bigger unit about forest and forestry. So our whole lesson with all of that together is about 4 hours long. Our chestnut curriculum is about 2 hours long. But we did it that way so that students could learn about the forest and their part of the state and then learn about the American chestnut. So they weren't learning about things that they would probably never see or they would have to travel to see. We focused on biodiversity, adaptations, invasive species, and of course, we wanted to cover the chestnut restoration efforts as well. We aligned it with state standards. Here you see some students who have gone on a walk and they've collected lots of different leaves. And now they are using hand lenses and a magnifying glass attached to a laptop to actually investigate and observe some of the differences that they're seeing in those leaves. Okay, next. And so this is all of the activities we cover, which seems like a lot, but many of them are short bursts to get students excited about a different topic, to get them moving, to get them out and about. My favorite activity is the Build a Tree activity. Students are tasked with designing a tree, and so they flip a coin, and depending on what outcome of the coin flip, their tree gets different characteristics. And so they do this a few times. Then they get to the end and they roll a dice, and depending on what number comes up, some sort of natural disaster occurs, and they get to see if their tree survives, which is always very fun. And this photo is one of the American chestnuts that's on our site. A few of our sites actually have them, so whenever they do, we always take students to observe the trees. Okay. And then kind of how it's gone and where it's going. So we tried out this curriculum in 2022 was our first year. We had 151 students go through the curriculum, and we were a little nervous about how it was going to be received because, we've got all of these high adventure activities like BMX biking and mountain biking and zip lining and archery. And so, we loved the American chestnut and thought it was pretty neat, but we weren't sure what students would think in comparison. But we had a number of students and teachers say that it was their very favorite curriculum. This photo is actually one of my favorites. This is from a little group who went on a nature walk as an alternative to going on the zip line. And they actually found some American chestnuts that I didn't even know were there because they'd gone through the curriculum and were excited and had investigated and found them themselves. So as we move forward, we're hoping that we can serve more students with this curriculum. One of the things that we are trying to do is that not all of our sites have American Chestnut, so are hoping to work with them to maybe do some plantings. Okay. And then that is my contact information for anyone who is excited to learn more about what we're doing, or anyone who is excited to learn more about Science Adventure School. And thanks everyone for having me on.
Thanks so much, Alice. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. We're getting into the Q&A portion of our, I see. Yep. I was just checking the chat and it's all just about those squares. Okay. So now we're entering the Q&A portion of our little educational roundtable, our miniature. Well, we have a triangle table since there's 3 of us, but hopefully we'll have, if anybody has questions, put them in the Q&A, and we can get to them. But before that, Eva, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself and your background as well. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Eva Butler. I'm the Vice President of the Maine chapter and the volunteer coordinator and the outreach coordinator. And it seems like every day I wake up, there's another job for me. But I'm interested in the education program for TACF because, as Catherine mentioned, that I come from a background of having founded an outdoor science program in Sacramento. And doing that for 20 years will teach you some things. And I'm really, I can't take this on as my primary duty for the Chestnut Foundation, this chapter, but I'm delighted by what I see happening, partly because over and over, what I observe kind of reflects what I'd learned through Splash. And that is when you want people to know about something, the milk lobby wants kids to know about milk, right? And they want to get into the classroom and convince kids with their propaganda that milk is important, and Mars candy bars. I mean, everybody wants into the classroom, right? But the great advantage I think that we have as Chestnut educators is that human beings are hardwired for connection. We're hardwired for connection to nature, to others and ourselves. And when you have a product where you offer the opportunity for first person direct contact with nature, you have like the winning ingredient. And the rest is for us to figure out how do we make that commodity attractive to teachers? How do we help them teach it? And how do we use that learning that students do to really more deeply connect them to community? And I think that is really our challenges beyond, the lessons sort of teach themselves. We have the ability to create great curriculum. We have amazingly talented teachers in our midst. I no longer worry about, I'm sitting on a draft curriculum for 8th grade by Sam Byrne at Wells Junior High here in Maine. And he just delivered it to me 2 weeks ago, and it's incredible. So there's the thing. And then what I'd like to sort of put forward is if we have the curriculum, we have teachers that are interested, we have students that we know will love it. What is it for all the rest of us as TACF members to do other than step back and go, oh, those educator people can take care of this? I'd just like to put out the one thing that I think we need at every school where we do this is a way for kids to touch a chestnut, like to go visit a tree, like Alice was saying, this marvelous experience of going out in the woods and finding them, right? Without that visceral connection, we've left one stone unturned, and I think it might be the biggest one. So I have this vision that in every place where chestnuts will grow, that every school has at least 3 chestnut trees growing within a 10-minute walk of the school. So if you don't think that's a task for everyone, it can be tricky to get trees planted on a campus because there's maintenance. So you always want to talk to the maintenance guy first. You want a teacher that's interested in doing the program. But if we can do this in a few schools in this sort of pilot period, we have proof of concept. And then as far as getting the curriculum into classrooms, that part almost takes care of itself, because if the teachers are happy, and the students are invigorated by it, teachers will tell other teachers. We don't have to market it very much. But I would just like to challenge my fellow chapter members to think about, what does it offer you as a chapter to have this idea that maybe our job is to make sure there are chestnut trees for kids to visit within 10 minutes of every school where they'll grow. And I would just say, think about that, and let's share some ideas about how that gets done. But I'm really excited about the future. It's and not just for like the Chestnut Foundation and our message, but for the kids that'll benefit from this. That's where our future is, in a multi-generational mission. And I don't think it's going to be that hard to reach them if we deliver a product well and give them the trees to fall in love with.
Eva, you're reminding me of another educator in Vermont, and I'm really sorry I couldn't put everybody all the teachers I've worked with and all the volunteers I've worked with in this presentation, but Tom Estill in Vermont has his personal mission is to put 2 chestnut trees at every public school in Vermont. And so it's interesting that I think this idea of really needing to see a chestnut is definitely valuable to teachers and retired teachers and people who do want to spread the word. So that if anybody's interested in his work, let me know. He does like to talk about it. So and he's done it a lot. He's been doing it for a few years now. So there's plenty of lessons to be learned from him as well. Thank you both. So so my first question, you both kind of have touched on this, but the inspiration to use the American chestnut in your, and I'm going to say classroom here, knowing that neither of you have a traditional classroom. Alice, you're outside, and Eva, you're kind of looking at the whole thing from the bigger picture. But what do you feel is inspiring about using the American chestnut as an educational tool?
Go ahead, Alice.
Okay. I think for us, working with students in West Virginia, in the heart of Appalachia, they may not have seen chestnuts or known about it, but they hear their grandparents talk about them. They hear about maybe their great grandparents talk about them. They hear these stories. And so chestnut in some ways has that kind of what Eva was saying, that very close connection with the people who live there. So for us, I think one of the things that makes it such a powerful educational tool is that there is this link with people and culture. Not that other plants don't have that, but I think the American chestnut is extremely special in that it is often tied into the stories and the folklore and the history of one of the places where we're working.
Mm-hmm. And I think for me, beyond just the fact that I think nature connection is sort of critical to everyone's well-being, that this is a future forward vision, right? That there's something wrong and there's something that can be done about it. And I think where I see Sam Burns' curriculum has led is that beyond learning about it, then there's something you can do. And I think we have an obligation to the next generation to help them understand where they fit into the solution and how they can have positive impact on the world. And if we can link our mission with the chestnut with something they can connect to very personally, I think we have a winning combination.
How much do you think that that ability to contribute towards the future, like you mentioned, Eva, actually being able to do something instead of just learning about it? I'm thinking about so much of modern humor and discourse is so negative about global warming and living through an apocalypse and things like that, and I'm wondering how how you see the chestnut, is the hope that the chestnut brings and the fact that they're doing something about it. Does that affect the kids that you're teaching?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's crux because the real challenge with education in general is relevance, right? How is this thing you're telling me relevant to me as a human being? And if you present this story and an opportunity to be relevant, to make positive change, to engage the goodness of people in positive outcomes, that is the thing I think most desperately needed in our culture today by everyone, but certainly children. This is our primary obligation, is to help them enter a world where they're seen and heard and they belong and they feel valued. That it's pretty simple formula, but many things can fulfill it, but the chestnut can do it, I think, with ease.
Do you see that in your students too, Alice?
Yes, I do. I think we often see students immediately wanting to dive in and help. I think with a lot of the ecological lessons that are out there, it's hard to really show them something concrete that people are doing. And so I think with, the chestnut, there is, it's a story of hope as much as anything else. We teach them about the different methods that are being used and how much people care about this particular plant. And I think it gives them not only a lot of hope, but I think it gives them a lot of excitement as well to know that those are things that are out there, that humans are working on it, and that is something that they can do as well.
Awesome. I have a question from John Hempel in the chat for Alice. How much do you talk about the blight fungus in your program? Assuming that you do at least in some degree, do you include anything about hypervirulence, especially because of West Virginia University's involvement with that research?
Yes, we do. So the curriculum is set up in terms of it introduces what the American chestnut is and why it was important and how big it used to be. And then it is very much focused on, where did the chestnuts go and why and what are we doing about it? So many of those activities are designed to explain some of the concepts in the story, but then at the very end, before we wrap up, we go through different methods that have been used to treat the blight. So, we talk about mud packing, we talk about hypervirulence, we talk about some of the genetic studies that have been done, and then students actually take a few minutes to pretend to be forest managers and weigh the pros and cons and think about what they would do. And we're actually very lucky. One of our main sites that we run the Chestnut curriculum out of is at the WVU Outdoor Education Center, which is housed in the university's research forest. So about a 5-minute walk from our site, there's a big stand of chestnuts. Well, they're little, but there's quite a lot of them that are part of a research program. So the students get to walk down and see them in real life. And as we were planning the curriculum, Mark Double was really helpful. He let us go to the agronomy farm to collect some specimens for the students to look at. So, yep, we definitely talk about the fungus and what it is and why it's there, and we talk about the different methods that have been used to treat it over the years.
I want to mention about the blight. One of my favorite parts of your curriculum is the invasive species tag, and how can you explain that a little bit to us, what that is?
Yes, I don't remember exactly which creatures we use, but essentially students are assigned to be different organisms, and so each of those different organisms affect each other in different ways. So the first round of the tag, they are running around chasing each other, and so one organism preys on the other but is immune to a different one. And so it's just kind of organized chaos as they're all tagging each other and freezing and unfreeze. And then the second round of the tag introduces the blight to the population, and so the blight has a very unfair advantage. And so you have the chaos break out, and then eventually all the students kind of start to freeze and be in place, just to, I guess, introduce this idea of what can happen in an ecosystem getting out of balance.
Eva?
I was just thinking that for young people, in these times, that I think a place for our chapter membership to work with us on this is that and I'd be interested to hear what Alice thinks about this, but in classroom settings, you have your teacher, that's your world. But we have this world outside of it full of chestnutters and people who are really working hard to make the world a better place for those students. And I think there's so many opportunities for us to, come to the classroom representing, our generations, so that the kids get to see that people out there care about them, care about something other than themselves, and are absolutely working hard to achieve this goal. They may not have a lot of models for that in their world. And I think when you show up as someone who's empowered to help, you show them the power they have in the midst of calamity. We're always in some calamity. This one feels different to me, but I've only lived through, 67 years of calamity. But I think we have to show up. I think we have to just show up and tell them how it is that we've taken this calamity and seized it by the neck, and we're gonna win.
Yeah. I think that sort of ties into to my next question, Eva, is what can the broader TACF community, the people on this call, our volunteers, us as an organization, what can we do to better support today's students?
I think on the micro level, what we're going to need is interested teachers to kind of seed the various curricula and programs and ideas that we have. Let's assume we have them packaged up. Okay, we've gotten through all that hard work of making it. So much of what makes things work at the beginning is just personal connections. I know a teacher. That teacher would be worth talking to. Those are really hard connections to make with something new. But you live in a community, you know the schools, you know which administrators are more open to letting their teachers do things. And I'd say, like, finding those teachers and those programs is one of the first steps, because you have to model it successfully somewhere. And once you do that, if it's good, it can take off kind of like blight. It'll just make its way. We're gonna seize the blight strategy and expedite it.
What do you think, Alice?
I would agree with that. I think, I guess to tie back to what Eva was saying earlier, I think a lot of it is just showing students excitement. I think given the pressures of many modern classrooms, that sometimes it can be hard to see curriculum as exciting, but then when you see, an adult come into your classroom or, volunteer at your outdoor school or whatever it may be, and just have extreme excitement for a topic, a lot of times students become interested purely because they see someone else who's deeply excited about something, and it gives them permission to be interested. So, as much as possible, if you're able to be involved in some of those educational opportunities, even if you are not comfortable teaching, or really delivering some of that curriculum, just showing up with excitement to tell the students about your experiences and the things that you care about, I think can truly make much more of a difference than people often think.
I think too, if you think of teachers as being overwhelmed, their job is ginormous and impossible. And there are so many ways that, a curriculum or a new project or program can be overwhelming. Another thing, really. But if we look at where are the places we can make something easier, if we're the one that can say, I know where you can get your kids out to see chestnuts. I'll take care of all the permissions about getting there and doing that. All you have to do is, get your kids' permission slips and deal with your school stuff. Like there's so many, planting trees. If we go to somebody and say, we want to plant 3 trees here, and they think, oh, another thing to do. And you go, no, but we'll provide the labor. We'll do all the stuff. We'll water them. You just have to be the entrance hole to this project. Just think creatively about dealing with people that are overwhelmed, and little things you do can make things possible that just wouldn't be if a teacher had to do it on their own.
Can I ask you, Eva, because we heard Alice's favorite part of her curriculum, which was the coin toss, build your own tree. I know your curriculum is, you're still working with Sam, it's still in development, but of what you're working on or what you've seen, what are some specific items from that curriculum that that you are excited about teaching or seeing how students receive?
You know, I think for me, I think there is such magic in watching a seed become something. Like the birth of a tree is magical. Like you almost can't give a kid a seed and have them witness what happens without it stirring something in them. So I think, you know, to the extent that it might be possible for students to start trees in the classroom, and then like know where those trees can go if they can't plant them themselves. Like what if they're growing the tree for the next school to have trees within a 10-minute walk? Like link them to other places and other people and help them see that, you know, people are just an ecosystem, just like the trees are part of. Like we are all part of the same ecosystem, and the connections are what make us strong. I'd like to see that they don't just learn ideas, they do things physically that connect them more to living things, including people.
Yeah. And I know that we've been really talking about connection and learning beyond lessons beyond the American chestnut itself, but I do also want to hear from both of you maybe about, like, if I've got a science teacher who's really into just the hard science lessons or something like that, what benefit using the American chestnut in those situations? If I have to teach about ecology and evolution or genetics, things like that, what benefit do you see from using the American chestnut in those like harder areas? Alice, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start. Again, I think it's the story behind the chestnut. I think, you know, it gets back to that idea that I think students really do want to learn things that are relevant and really learn things that make a difference. So when you can teach those lessons through a real life example that can connect them to what their curriculum is, that's where you're going to get the excitement and the buy-in to learning. One of my areas of research is about academic relevance and how you can get students to care about what it is they're learning about. And it really comes down to the connection. Having a connection to what you're learning is really what makes, I think, the big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, when I started Splash, the real reason behind it was that as a professional scientist with a kid in elementary school, when I saw science was not being taught, like at all. My daughter watched the movie Free Willy in 4th grade, and that was science for the year. And what I came to understand is that while everyone was pretending science was happening, at least in Sacramento schools, and I think much of California, without an emphasis on science, it literally was just being left in a dustbin. No one was doing it. And my question was, why is that happening? And what I came to understand was that less than 4% of elementary school teachers have any science background. So when it comes to like choosing with your limited time what you're going to focus on, you're not going to focus on something that you don't feel comfortable teaching. So I think the magic of Splash was that knowing that they would not have the sort of the drive or the willingness to take on a new curriculum that they would feel embarrassed to teach, I made the curriculum teachable so the teachers could learn it with their students. There was no like pre-learning, there was no preparation, just open the book and go. And I think that's really the ticket when we prepare curriculum and activities, whatever, that we do it with an eye toward how do we make this seamless for a teacher so they can learn along with their students. They never face the risk of embarrassment for not having deeper knowledge, and they don't have to go do a lot of other background research so that they can stand up in front of their kids and look competent.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, we'll end on maybe I had planned on ending the what can we do to help, but it fits so well earlier. So we'll end on just one last question, and then I want to share a video that the students at the Birch's School sent us a while ago. It's just really inspirational, and I couldn't end this without it. But what are some challenges that you face when teaching about the American chestnut?
I'll go ahead. I think the lack of a bundled curriculum that we can give teachers right now, that's the obstacle. I feel really confident that with effort we can overcome that. Then once we have it, you're just another person or organization with a curriculum you want to have done in schools. And there are literally like thousands of people out there in that predicament. And I would say that the challenge for us is how do we understanding what it's like in a school. I think I know some of the answers to this, but I think part of what our challenge is sharing those so that people really understand that when they approach teachers, let's have a strategy for doing that. Let's not go to the superintendent first. Let's not go to the principal first. Let's get it to teachers so that it's not a top-down mandate, that it's just another thing they have to do. I mean, I could go on, but generally I think they're laying out that strategy for how we as individuals or members or chapters can take this great curriculum we're creating and start to infuse it as an opportunity that's successful. Success at the front end is really important. So we have to be really strategic about how we do that.
What are some challenges you've seen, Alice?
I think I'm not going to have quite as eloquent of an answer as that. I think purely thinking about Science Adventure School and when we deliver the curriculum, I think often, for us, chestnuts are a bit of a ghost tree. Students hear stories about them, we tell them the stories, and we take them to see these very teeny tiny seedlings. And so they see those, and sometimes the reality of where we are doesn't match up with what the tree is in their head because they've never, they don't have any concept of how vast a tree it used to be and what it was like. So I think for us, some of the challenge is building that excitement, which we do around being in the beginning of what is a bit of a renewal, when necessarily you can't see these big results, these great results quite yet. So for us, it's, leaving or showing students a beginning of something of what is to come, but really creating that inspiration and hoping that that inspiration will drive them forward to see what things really will be in the future.
I'm laughing because I have a classmate from college who was in the sciences, and she said, if you've got a boring task to do with your students, make it a competition. And I'm just thinking about how, the West has its redwoods, and we had our redwoods too, and it's time to take our place back with the big trees.
Mm-hmm.
So a face-off with our West Coast counterparts, right?
Different kind of East Coast versus West Coast battle that we're used to. Thank you so much, Eva and Alice. This has been really, I've seen a lot of people saying they're inspired in the chat, and I always am talking with both of you and about your curriculums, and I can tell how connected with the students you are and how important really sharing the American chestnut is with them too. So I'm going to end my time here with it's a 3-minute song that Ken Clarkson wrote at the Birch's School. We talked about them earlier. So you'll see the students in it. You'll see a little bit of their project. You'll get an overview, but it really is just a sweet song.
The biggest tree the forest knows, mother trees we will grow. I'll plant a seed in the ground and say thanks for sticking around. My grandpa told me stories of a mighty tree full of birds. He loved the sound. Thanks for sticking around. One day after I am gone, birds will sing in a mighty tree. Listen close and you'll hear a song. Maybe they will sing about me. Birds are big and poke my toes. They'll return, I suppose. The chipmunks all around this town will say, thanks for sticking around. One day I'll climb a mighty tree, pick some nuts for you and me. I'll roast them till they're golden brown. Thanks for sticking around. One day after I am gone, birds will sing in a mighty tree. Listen close and you'll hear a song. Maybe they will sing about me. I wish I had a banjo, oh so good, made of the finest chestnut wood. I'd play it sunrise to sundown. Thanks for sticking around. One day after I am gone, birds will sing in a mighty tree. Listen close and you'll hear a song. Maybe they will sing. One day after I am gone, birds will sing in a mighty tree. Listen close and you'll hear a song. Maybe they will sing about me. In a mighty tree. The biggest tree the forest knows. The mother trees we will grow. I'll plant a seed in the ground and say thanks for sticking around. Thanks for sticking around. Thank you, Chestnut, for sticking around. In a mighty tree.
So yeah, you got to see a little bit of that. Yeah. It's a great project. If you want to see the whole video, so that was just the song. There is a history portion. You can go to where that rocks is in Lincoln, Massachusetts. They're going to put a sign up with the QR code that you can watch the whole video. So the kids explain the whole story of how important chestnuts were, the blight, and yeah, what they're doing now.
Can I say one more thing, Catherine? You asked about like the most exciting inspirational part of the program, the curriculum. And seeing that video reminded me that in Sam's curriculum, what it leads the kids to is to communicating their interest in the chestnut to other people. And I hear many times in our Zoom meetings, people concerned that it's hard to reach young people. Like, how do we make our membership younger? And I think accepting the fact that our message given directly to young people is very hard to communicate and for them to hear, but young people to young people, that is who they're listening to. So talk about a power they possess that we as adults don't have. That's it. And I think that video is just a great example of how to tell a story when you're young that other young people are going to hear.
Yeah. Just want to say thanks again to Eva and Alice for being on. And if anybody out there listening is an educator or interested in working with us on education, please contact me, Catherine.Martini@tacf.org. Would love to work with you on this in the future. Spread the word, because yeah, I want 1,000 videos like that. One that we just played will keep Sarah crying all afternoon. So
That's awesome. Well, that was adorable. Thank you, Alice, Eva, Catherine, for putting that together. A little sneak preview of more of what we'll hear about in October. Russell and Kelly, thanks for hanging in there and joining us and continuing to tune in on our Chestnut Chats, and Hal for all of your amazing video editing skills. Got your work cut out for us on this session, but we'll get it figured out, I'm sure. Thank you. This is really fantastic. Again, don't forget to join us in August 16th. We'll be talking about adaptive silviculture. Frank says, spread the word, people. Absolutely. We definitely want to keep spreading the word. And October 24, 25, 26, that's our Chestnut Symposium in Cromwell, Connecticut. So until August, enjoy the rest of your July, and hopefully you have some amazing summer weather to enjoy the next month. Take care, everybody.